Hello everyone. Today we are going to introduce our research about the endowment effect on college students. I'm Muhao Feng.
I'm Hongzhuo Yin.
I'm Weiqing Zhang.
Economists always assume that consumers are rational actors when they are in the market. However, this traditional view was challenged by the economist Richard Thaler in Misbehaving. Introduced a consumer's choice process when goods included in their endowment become more highly valued than goods that are not, which is called endowment effect. In other words, people tend to value more of objects they already own than they don't own. This picture would be a good example of endowment effect. For one exactly same cup, if you saw it on the market, you are only willing to pay $3 for it. But if someone tries to buy your cup, the same one, you will give a much higher price than the market value, such as $7, as this picture shows. According to Tversky and Kainzman's research paper in 1981, people were constantly affected by some arbitrary factors that matter little for the rational decision, such as social norms, emotional, and other stuff. One of the typical examples we mentioned in the class is the Thanksgiving or Christmas dinner. Then Kamen, Thaler Johnson, and Franciosi further investigate this effect both in the laboratory and field. Then they come up with the conclusion that the endowment effect is a widespreading effect in all the aspects. Dr. L also discovered that the endowment effect not only exists on humans, but also on other primitive animals by implementing the sophisticated experimental methods to test capuchin monkeys. And over here is a picture depicting Dr. L's experiment. He uses a token exchange method to test the endowment effect on capuchin monkeys. The endowment effect is important because with the knowledge of such effect, economists are able to establish better models with predictable errors, and people are able to make better decisions which maximize their profits. Endowment effect was also being implemented to many commercial activities, such as custom shampoo and simple cake baking. The research of endowment effect also encourages people to investigate related theorems and effects. IKEA effect was a derivative of endowment effect. People tend to place a disproportionately high value on products they create, which helps the society better serve homeless people. The loss aversion is the basis of the endowment effect, then people feel worse comparing to gain exactly the same utility. There are also many other related theorems such as psychological inertia, reference-dependent accounts, bias information processing theories. Then more and more researchers are dedicated to apply the endowment effect. Peter Landry tried to establish a conventional decision-making model that includes endowment effect and presenting bias. Plaut, Charles, and Zeller went to explore the willingness to pay and willingness to accept gaps. Tallahassee even analyzed the gender difference of women. However, there are less studies about experiments conducted on different age groups. The only such experiment was conducted by Bruce, Sandra, and Patricia. They were able to observe the endowment effect from preschool children by the willingness to share and exchange similar objects. Thus, we want to investigate the endowment effect on college students. In this research, we try to examine the endowment effect on how people value their labor effort versus other services through housekeeping content. We will use the name of the Department of Residence Life to send our surveys. We pretend that the department is considering offering a platform for students to obtain housekeeping services from peers and a way to earn extra money in their free time. In terms of data collecting, the survey will ask participants some general information about their dorm's housekeeping routine, their willingness to pay for the service of housekeeping, and how much they would accept to do housekeeping for others. We will use the collected data to compute the ratio of how participants' willingness to pay and their willingness to accept, and analyze their housekeeping routine. From the theory of the endowment effect, people tend to overvalue what they already own compared to what they don't. Therefore, we expect in this study, participants would follow the endowment effect and value more for their labor effort compared to other services provided to them. The purpose of this study is based on the academic interest to verify the endowment effect and research the accessibility for such residential life service to be implemented on college campuses.
In our study, we wanted to analyze current college students over 18 for how they will value their own labor compared to the other students through an online survey. We used within-subject experiment design to eliminate individual difference in their background, experience, and attitude toward our service background simulation. We were able to compare whether participants would show difference in their willingness to pay and willingness to accept, and analyze the difference in percentage for each of the participants. In order to expand our potential participants, we led an official translating company to help us to translate the survey, consent form, and recruitment materials into Chinese. Therefore, all participants are able to take the same survey in their native language, and receive the same treatment in the order of the survey questions listed. We have all of our materials in both English and Chinese, and here is our two versions of recruitment statement. We distributed our survey by sending full recruitment material and the link of the survey in Qualtrics in social media groups and postings, which allows more people to see the recruitment. After a weekend of collecting data, we had 45 participants who submitted the survey, and our result is based on the data collected from these 45 surveys. So here is our consent form, where only college students over 18 who are not living with their family are able to participate. We set the background as the housekeeping department is considering a peer housekeeping platform where students are able to pay for the others to do the housekeeping and earn extras as they're helping their peers. The department sent out this survey to collect students' basic habits on housekeeping, acceptable price, and opinion toward the whole program. This survey is completely anonymous and no identifiable information was collected. The first treatment is the first 4 questions regarding participants' housekeeping routine and habits, whether they have roommates and anticipated workload of their one-time periodic housekeeping. This treatment at the beginning simulates a survey that's actually from the housekeeping department and makes the participants be more convinced about the background. The second and third treatment are asking their willingness to accept doing housekeeping for other students and their willingness to pay for housekeeping service provided to themselves. The last treatment, asking participants' opinion about the peer housekeeping platform, which again makes the simulation more convinced. Through the survey, we mainly focus on the second and third treatment, where data of participants' willingness to pay and willingness to accept are essential to our study. By analyzing each participant's 2 data, we are able to find a percentage ratio for each subject and form a general conclusion on our endowment effect from there. Therefore, in our study, we don't have independent or dependent variables. Some confounding variables on the data collected would be free rider issues caused by the existence of roommates. So we would separate people who answered the most work and did all the work in treatment 1 and analyze their answers separately. Since our experiment would be simply surveying with college students, this experiment would be easily replicated and verified by the other researchers. So our experiment complied with the IRB standard that only non-vulnerable adults who sign consent form are able to participate. There will be no personal identifiable information be collected through the survey, and our project is approved by the exempt IRB review. and all of our members of the research team have passed the CITI training. It is also important to point out that our sample are college students only, and this means that our data may not apply to other groups. Our research comply with the COVID-19 standard such that the survey is conducted through Georgia Tech approved platform, the Qualtrics, and there will be completely no in-person contact in any procedure of the research. And due to the limit from the COVID-19 and the property of social media, the participants who are able to view the recruitment information might be highly associative to research group members' college and previous education, which is a limit to the randomness of the study. The simulation of survey might also be a problem because we can't always convince the participants that they will get paid or they will pay the others for such work.
All right. So overall, there were 42 out of 45 respondents finished their survey, and one response will not be considered. We will explain why in the next slide. On the right, there's a figure shows the ratio of willingness to pay over willingness to accept. Next. So for the majority, 61% of the respondents shows that they have the same willingness to pay and willingness to accept. 32 of them has high willingness to accept, and surprisingly, there are still 7% shows a higher willingness to pay. One of them explained that he lives in a much bigger house than usual, so he is willing to pay more than others. So we will not consider that sample because that is an unexpected side effect. Next. So we did a t-test, one-tailed and paired sample t-test for our samples. For willingness to accept, the average is 23, and for willingness to pay, the average is 20.5. Relatively, the standard deviation is very high, which are both around 17 and 18. However, our p-value is still about 3%. Considering a 5% confidence level, we still confirm that endowment effect does exist among those college student samples. Next. Well, in the previous test, we found the standard deviation is very high, and the reason is, look at the figure on the right. The majority of the samples has a willingness to pay and accept at or lower than $20. However, there are some extremers has a value above 50, even 100. Considering that our respondents need to convert between different currencies and they could make a mistake in the exchange rate, we will give up the extremers and do another test. And in this case, the average become much lower, which is expected. Willingness to accept has an average of 17, and the willingness to pay has an average of 15.6. The standard deviation are correspondingly 8 and 9, which are lower, and as a result, we have a smaller p-value, which is around 1%. Next. Also, considering some roommate could be the free riders of house cleaning duty, and they may not value the hard work of this, we've collected the samples that claim they either do the most or all the house cleaning service for the room. And 62% of them claim they have a higher willingness to accept, and the p-value goes even lower, which is below 1%. And if we can see the average, it's willingness to accept has an average of 18.5 and willingness to pay have 12.5. And this difference is also much bigger than the other samples. Next. All right, so overall, we do find that there is the major population shows the same willingness to accept and willingness to pay. However, for the whole population, endowment effect still exists. Some groups could have a higher effect of that because they do the more duty in the house cleaning service. We also find the evaluation of the house cleaning service has a big variance, which shows there is potential profitability for the service. And this service could also help some groups more than others because it's much easier to share the fee of house cleaning. Endowment effect can also used to nudge the population. For example, we can give a population the sense of they own this policy, like this ownership will help enhance the policy. Or we can use the opposite way to avoid it. Endowment effect can also help mobilize the population in the case of emergency to encourage people to protect their own property. Alright, next we will show our reference. Thank you for your patience and enjoy the next of your day.
Thank you.
Thank you.